Rather, speaking the truth in love, we are to grow up in every way into Him who is the head, into Christ. Hey, Central. Glad that we could be together again. Hope you're doing well. I've been thinking about some of the Old Testament accounts, and I know that when we look at certain Old Testament characters or accounts, events that happened, sometimes we can look at them and just kind of shake our head, and for a number of reasons, that's probably appropriate. But I was thinking about the wilderness wandering, and I was thinking about how when I look at the Hebrews going through the wilderness and they're calling to God for food, and God sends the food, and what's the next thing they do? They start complaining. They had the bread from heaven, which they called, "What is this?" and they were told that they could eat that pretty much every day. And they got sick of it pretty quickly, it seems, didn't they? But when I think about myself, I look at them and I go, well, how could they have gotten tired of this food that was just falling from heaven? But then I realize I tend to do the same thing sometimes. And I think to a certain extent we all do, don't we? When we look at what we're about to eat for dinner that night and we go, oh, we're having chicken again? Or maybe it's, oh, didn't we have that last week? Or, when we were going out to restaurants or what have you. Well, didn't we have Chinese last month? We want something different. And we can sometimes fall into that same trap, can't we? We have so many options available to us that when we start having to repeat the food, sometimes we do the same thing that the Hebrews did, and perhaps without even realizing it. And that can be a snare for us as well, can it? One of the passages that I want to look at today is found in 1 Timothy chapter 6. And I'm going to be starting in verse 6 here. Now, there is great gain in godliness with contentment, for we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. So, what's the lesson today? For all the havoc and the stress that this COVID-19 virus has created, one of the lessons that I think we can take away from this is the lesson of contentment. That it's good when we have our food, and it's okay if it doesn't have to be the fanciest thing in the world, right? And it's okay if maybe we have the same meal a couple times in a row. Contentment is a really good lesson to learn during this time. We don't have to go out every day to go shopping. We can learn to be content with what we have. Are we learning a lesson during this COVID-19 virus? Well, if there is one that I think we can learn, it's being content. God has provided, He always will, and with that, we can be content because of who we are in Him. Have a great rest of the day.